Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Anniversary of the white domestic attack on the U.S. Capitol. Here's what is coming up on the Black Star, Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Day 4 of the drama in the House. Kevin McCarthy moving closer to getting the votes to become the Speaker, but he failed on the 13th try. The House is adjourned till 10 p.m. It may happen tonight. It may not. This is the longest Speaker of the House contest in 164 years. We'll break it down with our panel. As I said, today, the second anniversary of the January 6th insurrection. Today, President Joe Biden honored individuals who did their part to save democracy, and so we'll show you some of that. The City of Oakland is in for a mayoral election recount after the NAACP called for a recount following a historic number of ballots being thrown out. We'll talk with 2 members of the Oakland NAACP Chapter to break down what the issue is. Also, there's a new COVID variant. We'll talk to the medical director of the Westchester County Health Department in New York to give tips on how to keep you and your family safe. We continue our focus on a new you in 2023. And we talk about cardio, but what about resistance training? We'll talk about that with certified personal trainer, health and performance coach, Monica Jones. So looking forward to that. Folks, it is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
The Republicans continue their crazy nonsense on in the House, where they have yet to elect a speaker. 13th vote. Speaker Kevin McCarthy still has not been chosen. What he did do is cut a deal with the Republicans, and he was able to bring down the margin, but still there are about 6 of those Republicans who are holdouts. Now, we are in for the House is adjourned until 10 p.m. If 2 of those 6 choose to support McCarthy, then he will have the votes necessary to be the Speaker of the House. This is the longest bid for House leadership in 164 years. There's been negotiating and concessions all around, dealing with the debt limit, dealing with all sorts of issues. There's even one report that says that if they go so far, there are some Republican moderates who may cross over with the Democrats when it comes to repealing some of these promised concessions. Folks, it's all kind of drama. So it's animated talk on the floor. It's all kind of different stuff. It's craziness as abound there of course, in the House. And so we're just watching this thing unfold. Joining us right now, political analyst and strategist Brianna Cartwright. She joins us right now. Our panel is Kelly Bethea, communications strategist, Michael Imhotep, host the African History Network show, Matt Manning, civil rights attorney. Brianna, I'll start with you. It really is hilarious watching this. And the thing that really jumps out the most, Brianna, is that Kevin McCarthy is cutting deal after deal after deal with these holdouts. But here's the problem. 90% of his caucus wants him. 10% are holding out. So you keep cutting deals, you're going to be pissing off some people who are in the 90%. And so, again, when you look at what could happen, he can cut all the deals he wants to. But remember, Democrats have 212 members. If 6 Republicans, moderate Republicans, who are in purple districts cross over, they can scuttle any deal that's cut.
Absolutely. And that'd be another precedented moment. And I would love to see Jeffries lead. I don't think that's going to happen. The original people, even these 6, they were elected from their constituents basically to create chaos. They weren't elected to actually lead or do anything relevant to the House. And we can see that because a lot of the original 19 people were also the people that, as it is today, January 6th, was involved in January 6th. There's a huge layover. This is going to be one of the, in centuries, the most conservative, even Republican, but conservative Speaker of the House. And so they're really, once again, this clown buffoonery entertainment is going on in order to halt progress. If we don't have an answer by January 13th, people aren't getting paid. We don't have committees that start up. We don't have, nothing is happening. Just like when they shut down the economy because of the budget. Over and over and over again, they use these tactics to literally not work. And these people, especially Lauren, which is, you saw her straight in center as the one, is not going to switch over, and they just want to make sure that nothing happens. That's why they're getting elected, to make sure that there's chaos in the House. And so I don't think that they're going to go for the Democrats. I think they're going to hold out. I think eventually they might circle around, but honestly, because the deal after deal after deal, McCarthy is going to be weak. He's going to be a puppet because he has to already contend to what allowed him to be there. And it shows over and over again, as McCarthy is Trump's boy, and we're going into this election, that there's less and less influence of Trump. And so we'll see how this unfolds, but the House is not going to be productive. And that's what this is starting to show.
What I keep trying to walk people through, again, we've seen the chaos these folks create. Freedom Caucus created chaos for Speaker John Boehner when President Obama was in the White House. This is what they do. But when people have to understand, they have a tenuous lead. You do have Republicans who are conservative, but they also want to get reelected. And so they won by very narrow margins. They're going to be under pressure to make the right call, because if they vote in the future with the hard right, it's going to fail over in the democratically controlled Senate, and those votes will be held against them when it's re-election time in 2 years.
Absolutely. I think that's very important. That's why you see the difference between the Senate, right? McConnell, who's actually done strategy and went out already to speak with Biden and thinking ahead, versus the House and McCarthy, who can't even get clearly a vote, right? There is no thinking of ahead, but there is narrow margins. And the places where these new House elects are coming from were areas where Biden won, right? And so they are new Republicans coming in, but they don't want to be one-term House members. And so their votes, actually, they don't want to go to McCarthy, right? And so, but, they did, whatnot. But it's to see that it started off with 19 shows that there is really never going to be a consensus between them, and they're they're the majority right now. But the margin is really, honestly, if you think about turnovers, is by 4.
Again, so where we stand right now, you have 6 holdout. He picks up 2 at the 10 when they come back at 10 o'clock. Then he's able to win. And so, but do you believe that these 6? So pull a photo up of these 6, and we've seen Matt Gaetz. I don't think he's gonna forget that. Boebert, forget that. You got Gosar, not gonna happen. So really, they're gonna be leaning on 3 others to fold. 3 others to fold, and we're talking about. Now, here's the problem: you got Andy Biggs of Arizona, who is one of those, one of those insurrectionists. You got Biggs, Boebert, and then you've got Gaetz, and so you're really going to be left to Bob Good or Matt Rosendale, or the new Arizona Congressman Eli Crane. At the end of the day, they flip 2 of them, then they're there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're leaning hard on Crane and leaning hard on Rosendale, because the other 4 have been very adamantly against Kevin McCarthy.
Absolutely. And I think the focus to be on Arizona would be the most advantageous, because it is, as we saw from the last election, the state that can go possibly more purple. And so the fact that it's in limbo and that it did so well, despite it being a time for it not to do well, maybe they'll think about the constituents, and maybe they'll realize that the constituents want stuff to actually get done. And so maybe they'll say, okay, we've held out enough. We did our job. Okay, we're done with the circus. Let's just work. And so I think focusing on the Arizona would probably be the key components, because, yeah, Gaetz, Florida is not changing, and definitely not Lauren. I mean, you saw that with Donald Byron. And so he originally had 2 ballots for McCarthy, and then started his own, like, minor, I mean, there's only originally, I think, 6 people behind him, but his minor race for himself to be speaker. And honestly, I'm surprised, because a lot of the people, I would say at least some of the people who did not vote for McCarthy, they would even say, well, it's not ready for him to bow out. I would think after the 3rd ballot, they would just put someone else on the ballot and say, you know what, thank you so much.
But look, I mean, their strategy is proving effective, because the bottom line is he survived 13. They whittled it down to 6. They pick up 2. Boom, he's speaker. And so I
don't think it's that effective. I think that the Republicans already decided that they weren't going to go against him, that they were going to say that there was one, and the extremists are pulling it. I think on the other side, the conservatives who actually want to be moderates and not have such an extreme house could pull away and say, okay, well, they did that, now we want this. I don't know how effective it is. I mean, they did allow for enough concessions, I suppose, and we'll see how many more concessions they did. But I think it's because McCarthy got assured that there wasn't going to be anybody who really ran against him. And I think that's the number one problem, that there should have been someone else that was a strong proponent against him.
All right, Breonna Cartwright, we sure appreciate it. We'll see what happens in a few hours.
Thank you.
All right, going to the break. We come back. We'll talk to my panel about this as well, folks. Be sure to download the Black Star Network app, available on all platforms: Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, support us by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. Check in money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get your copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at all bookstores. You can also download it on Audible. We'll be right back.
I love directing. It's a different kind of piece. I do believe that the 30 years I was acting was to prepare me for what I'm supposed to be doing and that what I really am good at.
But when you were acting, were you even thinking about directing?
Nope.
Were you, so what the hell happened?
If you had asked me 15 years ago, I probably would have said, no, I don't know. I was doing Ava DuVernay's first film, I Will Follow. Mm-hmm. And during that process, I think because it was her first film, maybe
She's self-taught?
Absolutely. I probably gave too many suggestions. And at some point, Ava said to me, I think you're a director and you don't know it.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hey, I'm Cupid, the maker of the Cupid Shuffle and the Wham Dance.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan. And if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, let's get right to it, Kelly, Michael, and Matt. All right, first up, Michael, we're watching this thing unfold. And again, what really jumps out the most is you're seeing the dysfunction of the Republican Party. It's also going to be a precursor for how they're going to operate, increasing the debt ceiling, any future votes, you name it. Mm-hmm. This is what you're going to see. I keep telling people, pay attention, because you're going to have anywhere from 6 to 10 Republicans who are not in hard right districts who are going to be watching this thing unfold. And if this thing goes too far right, they could cut their own deal. And so this is where people are about to see the chess pieces move, where you got these Freedom Caucus, these 20 members. You might have this contingent of 6 to 10. I'm not going to call them moderate Republicans because they're not moderate. They're just simply not as hard right as the others who may align with Democrats for legislation moving down the road.
Yeah, Roland, Happy New Year to everybody, by the way. On January 1st, I spoke at King Solomon Baptist Church here in Detroit for the Kwanzaa celebration. And that's the same church that Malcolm X delivered the ballot or the bullet April 4th, 1964. And I warned people how crazy Republicans were going to be, okay? How crazy the governing was going to be, but also trying to choose a Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, I didn't know it was going to go 14 rounds. I knew it would be crazy. I didn't know it was going to go 14 rounds. But this is a precursor to what's coming. What's coming? The Lincoln Project, they just, in the last couple of days, they revived this campaign. They have Kevin McCarthy's picture next to a head of lettuce, okay, like they did in England with Liz Truss, who was prime minister from September 2022 to October 2022. They're asking who's going to last longer, a head of lettuce or Kevin McCarthy. And it's also important to understand, this is the second year anniversary of the January 6, 2021 insurrection. And you had 139 traitors in the House of Representatives who voted not to certify the 2020 presidential election results. And many of these people, almost all of them, are members of the Freedom Caucus, who were the 20 who are holding out. But also, it's important to understand that a lot of these people are voting for, well, basically all of them are voting for, the rest are voting for Kevin McCarthy. So I think what's important for African Americans to do is we got to focus on kicking these people out of office in 2024, because it's going to be very hard to get meaningful legislation done when crazies are in power like this.
And this is we say this all the time, Kelly, why voting matters. When I interviewed Congressman Stephen Horst for the other day, this is what he said. He said, we lost by 7,000 votes, we would be in the majority. And every vote counts. Boebert only won by 250 votes. Okay, Democrats could have won that seat. You had the Democratic incumbent who chose not to run. The Michigan folks redrew the districts. There was an incumbent in Michigan who could have run in the seat. They let John James run. He barely wins that seat. Had Democrats had the courage there. Maloney got in the way, screwed up in New York. Of course, the New York Democrats totally botched that whole deal. And so they opened the door for the Republicans to pick up, 4 or 5 seats there. So we wouldn't be in this position, again, based upon if Democrats had done their job, but also had folks voted. And so this really is showing people what happens when one vote combined with others can change history.
Lesson to learn. This is at the risk of democracy. It's at the risk of things actually being done in Congress, right? Because we are on day 4 of this circus of trying to, get somebody into the seat of Speaker of the House when only this many people don't want him there. And the irony is not lost on me that these 20 people, these 20 people are the same ones who are talking about draining the swamp and clearing stuff out and making things more efficient. And they are the very people who have essentially become the swamp to make this democratic process even less efficient than it is and will be under Republican rule. So that irony is not lost on me, and it shouldn't be lost on anyone in this audience. But you're right, every vote matters. And unfortunately, this is an incredibly hard lesson to learn in this way, because it's literally going to stop the progress that American people need, that frankly American people voted for on either side of the aisle, all for the sake of ego and clout chasing at this point.
The thing here, Matt, the folks at the Freedom Caucus, they don't mind blowing stuff up. Like they enjoy chaos. That's really what we have to understand here.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, because that's their brand. I mean, that's what they've sold, right? I mean, kind of to Kelly's point, we're going to come in and drain the swamp and change the way things are done. But I think she's 100% right in that they are playing into a lot of the same things that they've said that Democrats have done. But beyond that, I mean, their own constituents are having issues with this. I heard on NPR this morning that people in Boebert's district are exasperated that it's taking this long to get a Speaker of the House and get Congress to business. And I think that's what the people should really take from this, is how our political processes allow a very small contingent of people to hijack the whole process. I mean, the idea that 20 people can keep Congress from working is absurd, right? Because the average American has to go to work. So for them to be playing these games and not to work is really a problem. And I ultimately think it's going to have a negative effect for them down the road, because they're showing that they're just as willing to play in the very games that they decry Democrats for allegedly playing, all for the sake of ego.
Oh, absolutely. And I just think that, again, what people need to understand, I keep telling folks, save for a couple of things, I don't foresee anything of significance getting done over the next 2 years with these Looney Tune folks in charge, Michael.
Absolutely. All you have to do is look at what happened in the 117th Congress. Overwhelmingly, these Republicans who were in office consistently voted against our own interests. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Okay, that vote was 220 to 212, March 3rd, 2021. Every Republican in the House of Representatives voted against the bill. The one Republican who voted for it, he said he made a mistake. He put out a tweet, said he made a mistake. He was going to change his vote. They voted, every Republican in the House and the Senate voted against the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Every Republican in the House and the Senate voted against the Inflation Reduction Act. They voted against the American Rescue Plan. And unfortunately, I just saw Byron Donald's face on TV and talk about Isaiah T. Montgomery of 2023. This brother is a total embarrassment. And I hope you re-air this weekend, Roland, the interview you did with him to show everybody how crazy he is. This brother voted against our own interests. And I use the term brother very loosely. This brother's a traitor. I'm sorry. But he voted, he told you, he voted against the American Rescue Plan. It lifted 1 million African-American children out of poverty. It saved the American economy. So, and he also voted to invalidate the votes of 16.9 million African-Americans who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Oh, you got to put his face up. Oh, go research this brother. And when you interviewed him, I hate to take it here, but when you interviewed him, Roland, I watched it live, and I said, I wonder if he is, and I went to his campaign, I went to his little Twitter page. Sure enough, he's married to a white woman. I knew it. Not because, no. See, this is his mindset. No, just follow me. This is his mindset. This is white supremacy through ventriloquism.
But hold up, but isn't, wait. Tim Scott married to a black woman.
Well, that's true.
Hold up. No. Tim Scott married to a black woman, if I'm correct, and he stood with Trump. He campaigned for Herschel. So what's the point?
And Herschel, no, I was following. I watched the entire interview.
No. Here's my point. If a Tim Scott would hit the nut stuff that he said and how he defended Donald Trump, stood with him, and campaigned with Herschel, he a black Republican married to a black woman. Over here, Donald is married to a white woman. Sounds to me like both of them, again, they are hardcore Republicans. That's who they are.
Right. No, I was following the breadcrumbs. That's what I was doing.
Following what?
I was correct. I was following the breadcrumbs.
But here's the deal, though. You can be a hard right black Republican and have a black wife and still be upholding white supremacy. So what the hell they got to do with it?
That is true. No, I was following the breadcrumbs, and sure enough, I was correct. Same thing with John James. I'm here in Detroit. I followed the breadcrumbs. Sure enough, I was correct.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm wrong, but this ain't one of those times.
So explain Tim Scott.
You can't explain Tim Scott. He's on Montgomery as well.
He just ended up
marrying a black
No, you can't.
Who thinks
and that's the whole point. It ain't got nothing to do with him having a white wife. He chose to align with a hard right MAGA Republican Party. That's the point.
Yeah, he did. And undermine and block the George Floyd justice.
Yes, he did. With a black wife.
Absolutely.
So he advanced what?
You said he advanced what?
He advanced white supremacy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely.
But what I'm saying is, who the hell the wife is, it don't matter. If you align with MAGA GOP, you are choosing to align with white supremacy. Got to go to a break. I'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The Supreme Court is back in session. God help us all. It is no exaggeration to say that this current session could completely reshape this country and redirect our future for generations to come. And not in a good way. We invite Dr. Valeethia Watkins and Professor Angela Porter, our legal roundtable, back to the show to put it all in perspective. That's on the next Black Table. Please don't miss it. Right here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Eric Nolan.
I'm Shantae Moore.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, let me correct something. Senator Tim Scott is single. And the reason I need to make this point, I'm not going to play those games. I don't care. There are black Republicans who have aligned with MAGA, who have black wives or black husbands. So I don't care if Byron Donalds' wife is white. I don't care if Byron Donalds was single. I don't care if John James' wife is white or if he was single. Byron Donalds apparently went to FAMU and graduated, I think, from Florida State. We've had other black Republicans on who stand proudly with Donald Trump and MAGA Republican, and they have black spouses. I don't care. I don't care. That has nothing to do with it. It doesn't. Now, I know we can sit here and we can talk about, well, they got a white spouse or whatever. No, it doesn't matter. That individual is how they're choosing to align. Because here's the problem with that, is that if we're going to say, well, I'm following the breadcrumbs and the spouse is white, okay, well then, what do we then say when somebody is a progressive and a wife is white, but they're sitting here championing racial justice issues? Are we following those breadcrumbs? Because if we do, we're going to go home and find a white wife. That's why it doesn't matter, Michael. That's why that is utterly irrelevant whether his wife is white or not. It doesn't matter. He's the one that's sitting here voting. He's the one that's sitting here driving an agenda. That actually means nothing. There are people who have sold out black people who have black spouses. So what do we then say then?
Is that I watched the interview that you did with Byron Donalds. I watched the interview that Ari Melber on MSNBC also did with Byron Donalds. I listened to his policy positions and and then I followed the evidence. And sure enough, his policy positions also acted out, in my opinion, were acted out in who he married as well.
So what happens? What happens when there is what happens when there is a MAGA black Republican with a black spouse? Then what? What lines up then?
They end up marrying a black spouse who thinks white. That's what happened. They end up marrying a black spouse who has a white mentality. That's what happened. But also,
what the hell that got to do with it? So what? Okay, what then happens? So what then happens with somebody black? What then happens with somebody black who is progressive or who agree with us on racial justice and their spouse is white? Does the white spouse have a black? What happens then?
Well, their white spouse, oftentimes, their ideology will line up with that progressive as well, and they will have those same type of progressive ideologies as well.
Or they may not.
Or they may not. There are exceptions to the rule, but the exceptions to the rule don't mean the rule don't exist.
Well, how about this here? How about we center on Byron Donalds?
We can do that.
No. How about our focus be on Byron Donalds and John James and not who the hell they married to? Because we ain't sitting here questioning any Democrat we disagree with and then asking who they go home to.
We can do that if you like.
No, but we're not. No, but we don't.
But no,
are we?
But no Democrats voted to overturn the 2020 presidential
No.
election.
And what I'm saying is, we don't need to play that ridiculous game on who their spouse is. How about we focus on them?
I am focusing on them.
But why you bring up the white wife?
I'm also focusing on mentality.
That's irrelevant. It's utterly irrelevant.
Roland, you just asked me a question.
It's irrelevant.
You just asked me a question. Just let me finish.
It's irrelevant and nonsensical.
No, because their mentality influences the policies they support, and their mentality also influences who they end up with. And if you look at this and pay attention,
the reason that
Roland, you just asked me a question.
But the reason that doesn't make any sense is because if somebody black who is progressive marries somebody's white, well then what's the mentality?
Because oftentimes that white person they marry will have the same type of progressive will embrace the same type of progressive policies and have the same type of progressive mentality.
Right. So their progressive mentality or progressive ideology is not based upon them being a white woman or a white man. It's their ideology.
You are concurring with what I'm saying.
No, what I'm saying is if we're going to have a conversation about how somebody is voting, what their ideology is, the position is, how about we stick to them and not who the hell they married to?
We can stick to them, but right now we're talking about the Republicans, and I mentioned 139 in the House of Representatives who voted to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. No Democrats voted to do that. I talked about how you have Republicans, 212 of them, who voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. No, basically almost all of the
So are we bringing up any of the other spouses of the Republicans who voted to see who's married to Latino or Asian, are we doing any of that?
You can do that if you like.
To me it's irrelevant.
Okay.
To me it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant to you, but I'm also dealing with policy, and I laid out.
No, you're not dealing with policy. You're dealing with them married to a white woman.
No Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for the Inflation Reduction Act. You think that's not policy? No Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for the Job Corps Justice and Policing Act.
Michael, you can't. No, Michael. So you can't sit here and try to do a dance by saying, "Oh no, I'm talking." No, Michael. You can't say I'm talking about policy, but he married to a white woman. No, you're not.
Mentality influences the policies that you support. Period. Your mentality.
But you don't even know what her mentality is.
Whose mentality?
Do you know the mentality of Byron Donald's wife? Yes or no?
I didn't ask the mentality of Byron Donald's wife.
But you made the assumption. Michael, really? Really?
But I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, the mentality of the wife, just take Clarence Thomas for a minute. Okay?
No. See, Michael. No, Michael. See, what we're not gonna do is try to jump. We're gonna stay right here. What I'm saying is, no, Michael. You're not gonna hop to Clarence Thomas. Michael, you're not gonna hop to Clarence Thomas because hold up, Michael. Here's the deal. Clarence Thomas's mentality predated his wife. So that ain't got nothing. So that ain't got nothing to do with it.
His wife in the 1980s.
Michael, this is real simple. Michael.
Her mentality and his lines up.
No. Here's the deal. That's nonsense.
You can't say they don't.
If we're gonna, yes, I can. If we're gonna sit here and focus on what Donald's is doing, we're gonna focus on Donald's and not who Donald's is married to. And we're gonna wait a minute. Unless
you got like a campaign ad with your spouse in it.
Oh hell, Michael. Oh Michael, every damn candidate runs out there with their spouses. So you
open it up. You open the door.
Oh no,
don't get mad at me because I kick in the door.
Michael, that's not opening up. That's ridiculous.
Because I kick in the door. This 2023 player. But don't get mad at me because I kick in the door.
No, what I'm saying is, what you're saying is utterly nonsense. It ain't kicking the door in. What he chooses to do.
The ideology. You follow.
Michael, Michael. You talking about
mentality lines up with the policy.
Michael, That's Michael. That's Michael. That's
end up with, and they have the same type of mentality.
That's nonsense. Tell me, Michael. That's nonsense. This real simple. This real simple, Michael. Michael, this is very. Michael, this is very.
No, they don't.
Hell, James Carville and Mary Matlin married to each other, and they are diametrically opposed. So it ain't got nothing. It has nothing to do. It has utterly nothing to do with, in terms of, it has nothing to do with who you're married to. No. I'm gonna say it again. It has nothing to do with who you're married to. When you are in the house and you're making your decision, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna focus on you as the politician. What I'm not gonna do is, I'm not gonna focus on who your spouse is. Coming up next, we'll talk about the Oakland NAACP demanding a recount and getting it in the Oakland mayoral race. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, it's time to tie up those loose ends, setting yourself up for balance, success, and even prosperity in the new year. Financial expert Pamela Sams joins our panel. She will give us a checklist of things that we need to do before the calendar turns.
We develop our money mindset by the age of 6. And so we have our sometimes 6-year-old self still operating in the background of our money scripts.
That's next on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The Supreme Court is back in session. God help us all. It is no exaggeration to say that this current session could completely reshape this country and redirect our future for generations to come. And not in a good way. We invite Dr. Valencia Watkins and Professor Angela Porter, our legal roundtable, back to the show to put it all in perspective. That's on the next Black Table. Please don't miss it. Right here on the Black Star Network.
You want me to do something crazy, but I don't know what to do. I'd rather just sit here.
Hi, this is Cheryl Lee Ralph, and you are watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered. I mean, could it be any other way? Really? It's Roland Martin.
The Oakland NAACP is questioning the recent mayoral election between candidates Lauren Taylor and Councilmember Shing Thao. The NAACP is demanding a recount because of the race-within margin of victory for Mayor-elect Councilmember Thao, who only won by 0.5% of the vote. The NAACP has several questions about the unusually high number of disqualified ballots and believes that a manual recount is the only way to determine why the votes were tossed out. Joining us right now is Dr. Allie Whitehurst, the Oakland NAACP Political Action Chair, and Seneca Scott, Oakland NAACP data expert. Glad to have both of you here. Seneca, I'll start with you. What is the data showing? First of all, how many ballots were tossed out?
Hey, first of all, thank you for having us, Roland. I like your framing. This is how many ballots were tossed out. There were 3,096 of our Oakland neighbors who were overvotes. Now, the terminology is important because we're talking about ranked choice voting that introduces new complex terms in the system of voting that was supposed to help improve things. So an overvote means a mistake was made and they stopped counting that vote. And ranked choice voting means you have multiple choices. In this case, you had up to 5 choices between 10 candidates to rank in order for Oakland mayor. So the number of votes that were disqualified at some point in time where they didn't continue completely were 3,096 overvotes and between 300 to 400 missing signatures or mismatched signatures that we don't have the exact number because we only get the county-wide number and we have to extrapolate.
So first of all, has any reason been given why they were tossed?
Has the reason been given for what?
Why those ballots were not counted?
Yes.
And was that? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's what we're looking for. So here's the central question about overvotes. An overvote means a mistake was made. So I'm going to try to break it down in this example. I ran for Oakland mayor. My name is Seneca Scott. I got 6th place. So let's say you voted for Seneca in 1st place, then you voted for Seneca again for 2nd place, and then you voted for Lauren Taylor for 3rd place. I get the first vote, and then because a mistake was made, that ballot is tossed in an overvote trash bin. Lauren never received the continuing ballot, even though the voter intent was clear. And what we're after is the county registrar has the discretion to create what's called a duplicate ballot. In the case where a voter's intent was clear, but there was a mistake like the one I just described that would otherwise disqualify it. And that's what we're after. There were no duplicate ballots made. And there are hundreds, if not thousands of ballots that were disqualified where the voter intent was potentially clear. So that's the first pile. The second pile, and you're talking about 677 votes. And when you have an election decided by 677 votes, and there's 3,400 or so votes in the trash, these aren't votes, these are neighbors who intended to have their voices heard. And the county registrar's office is by law supposed to make every effort to count every vote. And it looks like what they did is, when in doubt, throw it out. So we need to look at them and make sure that they count and do what they were supposed to do and see who really won this election.
I mean, obviously, when you talk about this razor-thin margin, this jumps out, Allie. And so what feedback have y'all gotten? Is there going to be a recount? There are some places where you have an automatic trigger of a recount. And so what's going on here?
Well, right now, we are very pleased that the Alameda County supervisors have decided to take this matter up at a meeting on next week. There was a special meeting yesterday, and it appears that 4 of the supervisors who were there agree that there needs to be a manual recount, given what we are faced with right now.
So Alameda County is going to have to make the decision. Are there not, though, like a lot of places, they actually have procedures in place that triggers automatic recount. So there's no automatic recount in the law there in Oakland?
No.
Election code.
Say it again, Seneca?
We don't have that in our election code.
So
we could be decided by one vote, and they would just certify it.
So if you don't have that, well, then what authority does the commission have to order a recount? So what is the basis of your request? What's the legal basis of your request?
So I'll give you the legal basis of our request is this. I don't know if you know this, but right after the election, I was one of the first people in the city of Oakland to call questions to the algorithm used. And although we faced some early rounds of ridicule for questioning election integrity, it's January 6th, so you get the joke. But it turns out we were right, and there was, in fact, an algorithm error, and it overturned a school board election in which a black man was supposed to have won who was the incumbent, and he lost. And so since when they did the election again, and with the correct algorithm, and he won, and his was even more narrow, it was decided by less than 50 votes. He actually won. So now he has to sue to overturn a certified election to get his school board seat that he rightfully won, even though they certified the election with an algorithm error. So you can get how complex and how problematic this is in a place where we should have confidence in our democracy and our vote count.
So the meeting is when next week?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
So, Allie, if the commission goes against your request, is the Oakland NAACP planning to sue?
We feel very confident that the supervisors will vote to move forward based on the discussions that were had yesterday. So right now we're just focused on kind of the next step, what oversight might occur during the manual recount. So we're just positive because, we've started this journey and that's where we are right now.
Gotcha. All right, then. Well, we certainly will look to see what happens next Tuesday.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a bunch. Matt, I want to go to you. This is one of the reasons why, again, voting rights, civil rights, lawyers absolutely matter. We've seen this in so many other places as well, because if you don't study these election laws, then we see what can actually happen.
Absolutely. And I think, that's a lot of the genesis behind several states and several political subdivisions using ranked choice voting, the idea that it increases democracy by allowing people to have more than one individual choice and just making it binary. And I think it's important for people to know the election laws, but also particularly to know the circumstances where the election administrators can discount ballots. Because I think that's really important. What Seneca was mentioning is, the intent of the voter can be obvious, but if they've got the autonomy to decide which ballots will be accepted and which will be discarded, and it's not along the lines of something that's very clearly statutory, then you could have a circumstance where an administrator who wants a certain outcome and it's right on the line can tip the balance. And that's not how it's supposed to work for the people. So it's very important for people to know the election laws, and it's important really to have more lawyers in this space, because as it relates to voting rights in particular, these are some of the most arcane, difficult laws to prosecute and some of the most difficult laws to understand, and they require some of the most difficult evidence to get together in terms of discrimination and intent and disparate impact. So it's very important that more lawyers get into this space so that the people's rights can be protected better.
Kelly, real quick, there's also what happens when you look at some states where they allow for ballots to be corrected. Some other places allow for no correction. And in fact, in Texas, they actually passed a law where you couldn't even notify people if there was a mistake on their ballot. That shows you how we have these different laws in the country. But about 30 seconds.
I agree with Matt here, but also it goes back to your original in the previous segment of why your vote matters. Razor thin margins are because not enough people vote a lot of the time. But also when it comes to laws like this, you need to be proactive about it, and you need votes in order to be proactive about it. So it's a very cyclical thing going on, but I hope everything works out.
All right, got to go to a quick break now. We come back. Today is the second anniversary of the insurrection trying to overthrow the government on January 6, 2021. Today, President Biden saluted heroes on that day. We'll show you what took place at the White House. Don't forget, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Support us by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do, and that is to cover the stories that matter. And so our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing annually $50 each. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Check your money order. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at Ben Bella Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Bookshop, Chapters, Books A Million, Target. You can also get it through your favorite black bookstore or download your copy on Audible. We'll be right back. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I love directing. It's a different kind of piece. I do believe that the 30 years I was acting was to prepare me for what I'm supposed to be doing and that what I'm really am good at.
But when you were acting, were you even thinking about directing?
Nope.
Were you? So what the hell happened?
If you had asked me 15 years ago, I probably would have said, no, I don't know. I was doing Ava DuVernay's first film, I Will Follow. Mm-hmm. And during that process, I think because it was her first film, maybe
She's self-taught.
Absolutely. I probably gave too many suggestions. And at some point, Ava said to me, I think you're a director and you don't know it.
What's up, everybody? It's Godfrey, the funniest dude on the planet.
Hi, I'm Israel Houghton. Apparently, the other message I did was not fun enough. So this is fun. You are watching
Roland Martin, my man, Unfiltered.
Folks, today is the second anniversary of what took place on January 6th, 2021, when these domestic terrorists stormed the U.S. Capitol to prevent the certification of the presidential election. They were spurred on by Donald Trump at a rally earlier that day. We have seen over the last couple of years even more vicious video than what you're seeing right now. So what you're seeing is what took place. And today at the White House, President Joe Biden honored Americans who stood for democracy, not just Capitol Hill police officers like Harry Dunn, but also those two black election workers who were attacked by Donald Trump supporters in Georgia. Here's what took place today at the White House.
Inspired by the voting rights legacy of her beloved Atlanta, Lady Ruby Freeman viewed her civic duty as a Fulton County election worker as a sacred mission to ensure the people of Georgia could exercise their fundamental right to vote freely and fairly. In the 2020 election, she upheld that sacred mission despite an orchestrated campaign to overturn the election and that targeted and threatened her and her family. To the nation, she bore witness of the trauma and tragedy of that experience, and today, we the people honor Lady Ruby Freeman as part of our nation's voting rights history.
Folks, it wasn't just Ruby Freeman on that day. Also, there were police officers who, of course, were attacked on January 6th. We know, of course, that many of them suffered various injuries. Go to my iPad, please, and I'm going to play for you some remarks in a second when President Biden, when he acknowledged Harry Dunn, of course, who was one of the folks. You've seen this brother in a lot of different interviews since then, talking about what took place that day. If y'all have it, go ahead and roll it.
Bear the day's facts for history. In his advocacy on behalf of officers battling lasting trauma, is helping to ease the stigma around mental health in our nation. For defending the citadel of our democracy and for seeking truth and healing, we the people honor U.S. Capitol Police Private First Class Harry A. Dunn. Caroline Edwards. The granddaughter of proud military veterans, Caroline Edwards left a corporate career to follow in their footsteps, serving our nation. On January 6, 2021, she helped stop advancing insurrectionists even after being knocked unconscious in the mob's first brutal surge. She has also fought for colleagues as a police union board member and peer counselor, and her congressional testimony will help ensure their valor is never forgotten. For her courageous defense of our democracy and service to fellow officers, we the people honor U.S. Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards.
Important because, and it should have been held on today. When we talk about what took place, we talk about what happened 2 years ago, and let's remember, folks, that there were individuals who supported those insurrectionists who were voting today for the Speaker of the House down Pennsylvania Avenue. There are people who've yet to be held accountable. Those folks were also re-elected. Today was the Presidential Citizen Medals. And of course, you got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Presidential Citizen Medals here. Go back to my panel, Matt, Kelly, and Michael. The thing here is when we think about January 6th, we cannot overlook the fact that the individuals who say they care about law and order didn't give a damn about any of these officers, any of these cops. They wanted to see Donald Trump return to the White House. Michael first.
Absolutely, Roland. And they backed the blue until the coup. The Republican Party was supposed to be the party of law and order. We see them as the party of the traitors and the insurrectionists. And also, it's something very important to note that with Republicans taking control of the House, now they haven't been sworn in as of yet. We understand this, but from my understanding, they have reduced the amount of security there in the House of Representatives. Okay, because the party in power controls that. And then also, I'm hearing that they removed a lot of the magnetometers as well. Okay. Now, there were numerous reports of constant violations of by Republicans bringing weapons into the House of Representatives. Okay, and people trying to go around the magnetometers, things like this. This is extremely dangerous. That one coup was thwarted, but there's another insurrection that continues, and we just better buckle up because these next 2 years are going to be crazy. I don't know how this is going to turn out, to tell you the truth, but we got to be ready for this. And in 2024, we got to vote these traitors out of office.
Kelly, again, that was a dry run. What took place? They wanted to succeed. And you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, Matt Gaetz, and the others, they would have no problem if it happened again.
Absolutely none, which is scary. It is absolutely terrifying because on top of the fact that it very well could happen again, you have their constituents supporting that. So it's not just about congressmen and people on the Hill who simply don't like Democrats and the like. You have people who backed them, which is how they got to the Hill in the first place, who will also support this. They are the ones who stormed the Capitol, not the congressmen themselves. And they were fed lies by the congressmen and by Trump. and by these MAGA supporters. And it, again, I keep reiterating how it's scary. It is, I don't want to say inevitable because I don't want to speak that into existence, but the vitriol that you saw 2 years ago did not die, and it did not wane just because Biden became president. It's just underneath the surface. Hopefully, we have strengthened our security as far as these threats popping up, but the fact that it's a possibility at all, it's scary.
Yeah, I think it's scary. And I think what's particularly insidious about these politicians who are leveraging it is that they don't have to get their hands dirty. I mean, since I saw Josh Hawley, give a power fist to the crowd and then walk into Congress and then run away, hours later, it's probably been the politician I hate the most, because I just think it is abhorrent that people who sit in this ivory tower can try to foment this and leverage what is already going on out there and getting worse and worse and worse, and then know that they don't have to get their hands dirty. And that, to me, is, I think, the most insidious thing and also the most dangerous thing. Because what you're dealing with is you're dealing with mob mentality, and you're dealing with people who have these ridiculous, horrible, supremacist ideas that are being leveraged by the politicians that know they're leveraging them, but are the ones in power and who can act like they're just at arm's length. And that's the thing that I think is so dangerous about this. And that's what I think will make this continue to metastasize and be a bigger issue for years to come. And that's also why I think it's incumbent on the Democrats, as they have, to ring that bell even stronger, and to take the fact that in this last election, a lot of these election deniers and people who kind of had some of this ideological thought were soundly denied. So it's a good thing, because hopefully that means there are some people out there on both sides of the aisle who are just fed up with things getting this crazy and won't allow it to go too much further.
And in fact, this is a video that the GOP Accountability Group released today. That video should have been ready.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to News 4 Today.
The president is set to take the stage at 11 a.m. this morning.
This election was stolen from you, from me.
There's no way that Trump lost this election.
Fraud.
Fraud. Fraud. And fraud.
Fraud. Corrupt.
Corrupt.
Corrupt. Our country is under siege. We're going to the Capitol to make your voices heard.
A Senate who don't give two shits about the people, we're coming in after them. Yeah. This is our building. All these politicians, we're not going to fucking stop. We are not stopping until we take our country back.
Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
The time to act is now. We know the military's on our side right now. We know that these people are ready to go.
When you catch somebody in a fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules. We must stop the steal, and you better do it before we have no country left.
No, do I think Biden will be in office? No, I do not, because these people, including myself, will not allow it to happen. We will come together as a militia, like our founding fathers said we could, and crush tyranny.
You will have an illegitimate president, and it's time that somebody did something about it.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. New COVID variant impacting. We'll tell you what we must do to protect ourselves. Also, new you in 2023. Sure, cardio is great, treadmill, elliptical. What about resistance training? Monica Jones will talk about that. Lots more to discuss right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, right here on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backdrop. last
This
year.
is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The Supreme Court is back in session. God help us all. It is no exaggeration to say that this current session could completely reshape this country and redirect our future for generations to come. And not in a good way. We invite Dr. Valencia Watkins and Professor Angela Porter, our legal roundtable, back to the show to put it all in perspective. That's on the next Black Table. Please don't miss it. Right here on the Black Star Network.
Y'all know who Roland Martin is. He got the ascot on, he do the news. It's fancy news.
Keep it rolling. Right here. Rolling.
Roland Martin.
Right now.
You are watching Roland Martin, unfiltered. I mean, could it be any other way? Really? It's Roland Martin.
According to the World Health Organization, this new COVID variant is the most transmissible subvariant that has been detected yet. It is called XBB.1.5. It's called the Kraken, identified in 28 countries, folks. No reports of significant differences in severity from the other strains, but it is causing some concern here in the United States because it seems to be spreading very rapidly. The last 2 months, tracking numbers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show the variant now makes up more than 40% of the cases in the United States. Joining us right now, Dr. Dial Hewlett Jr., Medical Director of the Westchester County Department of Health Clinics in White Plains, New York. Glad to have you, Dr. Hewlett. So if this is the most transmissible, what concerns should we have?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Roland. The concerns I think that we have are that because this is so transmissible, the good news is that the bivalent vaccines still work. And the best weapon against this new variant is for people to actually get vaccinated with the bivalent boosters. Although many of us may have been vaccinated with the primary series, unfortunately, this new variant will break through and cause infections again. So it's very important for people to know this. The other good news that we have is that the currently available oral antiviral still will work. And so for people who do happen to fall ill as a result of this variant, they can use the oral antiviral, the Paxlovid as it is called, and that actually will hopefully shorten the course and will hopefully also keep people out of the hospital.
And the thing is, I mean, look, you have folks who are operating as if, everything is fine, this is okay. I saw this tweet today that I thought was interesting. Go to my iPad, please. It says, testing wastewater from planes found that almost all flights had passengers with COVID. And it was found in 96% of flights. When I flew to Jamaica and I flew back, I mean, it was crazy to me the number of people who on the planes not wearing masks. And I've had some fools who will tweet me and they'll be like, oh, you should take that diaper off of your face. Doc, there is no way in hell I'm flying anywhere in America without a mask on.
I agree with you, Roland, 100%. And not only with flights and other forms of public transportation, but I think we also have to be concerned about closed spaces indoors, especially during the winter months. And in communities where we have high levels of transmission, and some of those communities are places like New York, although the rate went down slightly, Fort Worth, Texas, and Miami. In these areas, because there's a high level of the virus in the community, it's advisable for people to actually wear masks while they're indoors. So I certainly agree with you on taking the precautions.
We talk about the vaccine. You still have these violent anti-vaccine people. They're out here. They blame anybody who passes away as a result of the vaccine, as if folks didn't pass away before the vaccine. And part of the issue, I believe, is that this administration, and I'm just going to be very clear, I think this administration, when President Biden went on 60 Minutes declaring the pandemic over, they wanted to get behind them. They felt it was impacting their political ratings, it was impacting the economy. But I keep saying this, and it ain't that damn hard for people to understand. Look, death is death. And now we're talking about people who have long COVID. People are talking about the impact of COVID I saw one story, how they're now seeing the impact of COVID on folks' dental health. And so we still don't know the long-term implications of COVID. And as somebody who had it twice, look, that freaks me the hell out because you don't know what is happening inside of your body.
Well, yes, I think, Roland, as you're saying, there are a lot of questions that remain unanswered. In terms of long COVID, we know that anywhere between 10 to 30% of people who fall ill as a result of COVID will have long-lasting effects from it, and we don't know the very long implications of this. We're very concerned about our children, obviously, because some of our children also have long COVID, and some of our children have become seriously ill. I understand a lot of the issues related to some of the advice that has been given out of fairness to our regulators and out of fairness, I think, to our politicians. One of the problems with infectious diseases is that it's a moving target. And so things change from day to day. And it's often very difficult for us sometimes to talk about things that we thought were correct last month, but now they're incorrect. So I think we're trying the best that we can, those of us in public health and in the medical community, to make our recommendations and to update our recommendations according to the circumstances.
So you talked about, obviously, still masking up, being in closed spaces, and getting the vaccine. You tell some people who are like, well, just live with it. Last point, please reiterate again, for those parents who have children who are in school, who are going to daycare, what they should also be doing.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me that opportunity. The COVID vaccines, the bivalent vaccine, the bivalent booster is now available. It's approved and it's available for children from 6 months of age and older. We just started to administer this to the very young children at our health department just today, and we're very excited about that. The bad news, of course, is that only about 5% of the children in the nation have actually been vaccinated. And so we think that we have a long way to go as far as convincing our parents that this is a good thing for them to do for their children. Also, in preparing the children to go to school, we want to make sure that people are aware of the fact that it's still very important for children to wash their hands. It's very important for the parents to observe their children and not to send them to school if they are ill. One of the problems that we have with this, that we've had with this pandemic, is that it appears just like a common cold. And so the parents have to be watchful and mindful and not send their children to school if they are ill, and also for themselves not to go into work if they are ill, because the virus can spread very easily.
Dr. Hewlett, we certainly appreciate you joining us to break this down for us. Thanks a lot.
Been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Folks, I want to give you an update on Damar Hamlin, the Buffalo Bills player. Talk about, man, recovering. Today, folks, he FaceTimed his fellow Buffalo Bills players. They were shocked to actually see him on the FaceTime. They've also removed the breathing tube. Remember, he was intubated when he was brought to the hospital on Monday. That's been removed. Guys, pull it up, please. Come on. Thank you. Come on, pull the graphic up. Let's go. So this was the Buffalo Bills tweeted, per the physicians at UCMC, Damar's breathing tube was removed overnight. He continues to progress remarkably in his recovery. His neurologic function remains intact, and he's been able to talk to his family and care team. And so that is great news for that young man that he was able to do that. And so again, those players were quite relieved. They actually described the scene where they were just shocked when he pulled up on FaceTime to talk to his teammates. Before I go to the break, Wall Street Journal is demanding answers as to why one of their black reporters was detained in Arizona last year. Of course, this took place outside of a Chase Bank while he was conducting interviews. Dion Raboon, a finance reporter, was working on a story in November when bank employees called the cops on him. When police officer Caleb Zimmerman arrived on the scene, he told the reporter to leave, but decided to detain him for trespassing. Raboon did file a complaint, but the police department said the policies were not broken. A probe was opened following a complaint from the Wall Street Journal editor-in-chief, Matt Murray, expressing concerns about the incident. The Wall Street Journal released this statement: "We're deeply concerned that Wall Street Journal reporter Dion Raboon was detained, handcuffed, and placed in the back of a police vehicle while reporting. No journalist should ever be detained simply for exercising their First Amendment rights." So, my goodness, now we can't even be reporters out here and now get detained by cops. Got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about a huge decision out of South Carolina where they rule racial gerrymandering when it comes to seats. They're ordering the South Carolina legislature to redraw them. A white sheriff who was captured on audio making racist comments, who resigned but then won re-election, has now resigned again. I'll tell you about that. And Dana White, leader of the UFC, slaps his wife. It's amazing how many main people in mainstream media are ignoring that. Imagine if he was a black entertainer. We're going to talk about it next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. And of course, we're going to talk about resistance training with trainer Monica Jones. Folks, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Of course, in your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered, Zelle. Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, and Target. You can also download a copy on Audible or get it from your favorite black bookstore. We'll be right back.
I love directing. It's a different kind of piece. I do believe that the 30 years I was acting was to prepare me for what I'm supposed to be doing and that what I really am good at.
But when you were acting, were you even thinking about directing?
Nope.
Were you? So what the hell happened?
If you had asked me 15 years ago, I probably would have said, no, I don't know. I was doing Ava DuVernay's first film, I Will Follow. Mm-hmm. And during that process, I think because it was her first film, maybe
She's self-taught?
Absolutely. I probably gave too many suggestions. And at some point, Ava said to me, I think you're a director and you don't know it.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, it's time to tie up those loose ends. Setting yourself up for balance, success, and even prosperity in the new year. Financial expert Pamela Sams joins our panel. She will give us a checklist of things that we need to do before the calendar turns.
We develop our money mindset by the age of 6. And so we have our sometimes 6-year-old self still operating in the background of our money scripts.
That's next on A Balanced Life on Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm BB Winans.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
In today's Black and Missing, India Washington disappeared from her Milwaukee home on December 19th. The 16-year-old is 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighs 124 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about India Washington is urged to call the West Allis, Wisconsin Police Department at 414-302-8000, 414-302-8000. Folks, a federal court out of South Carolina has ruled that the legislature racially gerrymandered the map in the 1st Congressional District to dilute the power of black voters. 3 federal democratically appointed judges ruled that South Carolina lawmakers racially gerrymandered the state's 1st Congressional District and must redraw the maps in March. The court found that state lawmakers shifted 30,000 African Americans in Charleston County to a nearby district was not coincidental and violated the 14th Amendment based upon Supreme Court precedent. Quote, after carefully weighing the totality of the evidence in the record and credibility of witnesses, the court finds that race was the predominant motivating factor in the General Assembly's design of Congressional District Number 1, and that traditional districting principles were subordinated to race. The South Carolina NAACP filed the suit challenging the racially gerrymandered maps. Matt, the thing about this is what they did. You had a seat that a Democrat had previously won. So what they did was they then shifted 30,000 black people out of that district to Congressman Jim Clyburn's district that then became 81% black. And so this is one of the things when we talk about cracking and packing across the country, when we talk about diluting power. Now, somebody watching may say, well, hey, that just guarantees we get a black representative. But what it does is when you're shifting black folks, you're saying, oh, y'all are likely going to vote Democrat, and that's keeping us from having a black folks having a Democrat win a 2nd seat by moving all the black folks into one district.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think what goes along with that is the fact that in that statement you read, or I guess in the court's opinion, the court found evidence that race was the predominant factor. So a lot of times what you see is they try to gerrymander and try to obscure race, but there must have been evidence that made it clear that the reason they drew that map was to have a racial composition that violates the law. So I'm glad that this decision came down, because this is what functionally happens. Gerrymandering is probably the most insidious thing as it relates to elections that people don't think about on a daily basis, but it has such a measurable effect on the power of your vote and the ability to win certain districts. So I'm glad that they called this out, and it's especially important that it's South Carolina, because that's a place where you wouldn't necessarily think it would go the right way, but I'm glad they made this decision.
Again, it was a federal court. It could get appealed. We'll see what happens. But the Supreme Court previously ruled against that they have no role in political gerrymandering. It's left up to the state Supreme Courts. But they have still been ruling on racial gerrymandering. Let's stay in South Carolina. Well, that state Supreme Court, speaking of them, struck down the 6-week abortion ban there, which is quite interesting here. The majority Republican court decided that abortion remains legal in South Carolina until 20 weeks of pregnancy. It was a 3-2 vote. The majority noted that based upon the state constitution, a person's right to privacy is there, that any limitation on that privacy must be reasonable and afford a woman sufficient time to determine she is pregnant and take reasonable steps to terminate that pregnancy. The thing about this ruling here, Kelly, is that abortion rights lawyers have been studying the protections in state constitutions, and they are filing lawsuits in state courts saying that bans on abortion is violating these state constitutions. And so it's a novel legal strategy. And of course, they were hoping that with the Supreme Court, thinking that it applied across the country, now they must go state by state. This is major because of all states is South Carolina, the state Supreme Court ruling. And so they say, hey, if we won there, this could bode well in other southern states.
You're right that it's fascinating, but I am still incredibly irritated by the fact that these brilliant legal minds have to go this route in order to preserve something that should frankly be a human right, which is the right to control what I do with my body. That should be a completely autonomous decision, and it should not, my personhood should not be in the courts as a political token, if you will. But back to a portion of your segment where you say voting matters. This is why federalism matters, because there are certain aspects of law that should just be blanketed across the country, which is what Roe v. Wade did. It was a nationwide thing. And now because of this court, it has been decentralized to the point where you have to go state by state by state to determine just how much of an autonomous woman I am. And that is frustrating. It is incredibly infuriating. But more importantly, it's just sad that we have to go back to this archaic mindset of having to rely on someone, mainly men, to figure out whether I'm woman enough to take care of myself. Basically.
This is what, well, unfortunately, this is what happens when you have laws that are passed and the courts can overturn them. Congress could have fixed this by actually placing it in, by actually passing a law that invalidates what the Supreme Court said. They haven't done that. And so too many Democrats were hoping the court would keep it in place. They should have paid attention. Republicans are like, no, we get control of the courts. We're getting rid of this. That's why it must be enshrined into law. And that's why those laws matter. Otherwise, you leave it up to the courts. Let's talk about what happened in California. A California police sheriff threatened to kill a black man sitting in a private parking lot if he did not comply with all the officer's demands. Yo, this is nuts. Watch this video.
Nigga's crazy.
Reach around. You take off in this car, I'm gonna shoot you. I'm gonna make it super easy on you. You put this car in drive, you're getting one right to the chest. So I don't care what you got. I don't care if you got bullshit on you. But guess what, bro? Now you got to deal with it. But if you pull some bullshit, you're gonna take one to the chest.
So you're gonna shoot me right
Absolutely.
now, bro? For what?
Absolutely. If you don't listen, you're done. You understand me?
You're gonna shoot me for sitting in the car?
You didn't comply or no?
Comply what? I'm
if
sitting
you move
in
your
the
hands
damn.
from right there,
I'm
you're in
sitting-
trouble.
So you're gonna shoot me? I'm sitting in the damn car, bro.
4809. Reach out.
I'm sitting in the damn car.
Move your hands from right there, and you're done.
So I'm under arrest or what, bro? You got guns on me like I'm a
You are
suspect,
most
bro.
definitely 1,050% detained. If you do anything other than what you're doing right now, then you're gonna have some major.
Feezy LeBron was sitting in his parked car in a friend's private parking lot as he went live on Instagram when a sheriff deputy, Justin Sabatini and Jacob Ruiz, approached him in Crenshaw. Feezy said the officers opened the vehicle's door and pointed their guns at him. He also claimed the deputies never told him why they were after him. Michael, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. And so, okay, guys sitting there, private parking lot, why in the hell are you stopping them? What's the basis of it?
That's what I'm looking for. Besides him being black, I'm not exactly sure what type of car he was in, but it's like, okay, I'm trying to, and listening to the audio there, the officer is threatening to execute him if he doesn't comply. He's threatening to execute him. It doesn't appear that Feezy had a weapon, or that he acted like he had a weapon or anything like this. And so it doesn't appear that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's, that the deputies, it doesn't appear that their life was threatened or anything like this. So hopefully these guys get fired and charged with something, some type of intimidation or something like this. But this is crazy. I'm glad this was caught on audio. I don't know if they how much video they have, but I'm glad we got the audio of this. But once again, Roland, starting off 2023 with these crazy stories, and this is an example why a lot of why a lot of people should not be police officers.
Before I go to the break, folks, a disgraced North Carolina sheriff has resigned again. Sheriff Jody Green was recently reelected in November as a North Carolina sheriff. Now, remember, he made some racist comments about black folks, about people who worked in the department. He resigned, but his name was still on the ballot. He kept running. He wins. So therefore, he's now resigned after winning. Now, he was sworn in on December 29th. DA John David filed a petition to have him removed again and permanently disqualified running for office in the future. 3 months into his term, Green's attorney announced his second resignation on Wednesday. And that's called good riddance. All right, folks, coming up next, Dana White leaves the UFC, slaps his wife, caught on video. Not really that big deal nationally. Can you imagine if a black major sports figure slapped his wife and it was on video? Folk would be this quiet? We'll discuss next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Download the app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Join our Bring the Fuck fan club. See and check in money orders. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And be sure to get your copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Ha 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 yeah. Hey, I'm Antonique Smith.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, Dana White leads the UFC, of course, Ultimate Fighting Championship. Very popular in this country. He's the founder of it. And what's quite interesting is that he went viral for an awful reason on vacation with his wife, and he slaps her. Watch this. Now, White apologized, saying, "Oh, it shouldn't have happened. That he and his wife they were arguing. Oh, this should not have happened. You're taught never put a hands on a woman." I'm sorry, Kelly. Have you actually seen the press release where he's been suspended? He's been put on probation. Have you seen where they have said he has to step down temporarily? There's an investigation. This is a man who leads the UFC. This is a man who decides who fights and who doesn't, who commits an act of domestic violence against his wife. This same week, Chris Beard, head coach of the University of Texas basketball team, he was arrested a few weeks back after he was arrested for domestic violence against his fiance. She then came out and said she shouldn't have called, it shouldn't have happened. University of Texas said, nah, don't matter. He's gone. He had a 7-year guaranteed contract, $5 million a year for 7 years. He gets fired. But it's interesting how folks are so quiet about Dana White.
I mean, it's not surprising that you have someone who is notorious for doing dumb stuff, basically becoming Teflon and getting away with it. You're asking me, have I seen anyone else in this predicament? I mean, I can recall Ray Rice losing everything he worked hard for because of a domestic violence incident. And that was after the press tour with his wife, in which they were both in counseling and they were both apologetic. And I'm not saying that, she was at fault in any regard, but the fact of the matter is the parallels are there, and that they were both taped. They're both in high profile positions, and one man does not have the career that he could have, and another man not only has his career, but is, slated for even more greatness, so to speak. And the only difference between the two, as far as the two situations, is that one's black and one's white. Take that how you will.
But I use the example, Matt, of Chris Beard, white head coach. He's fired. University of Texas fired him this week. Dana White no longer owns the UFC. It's actually owned by a talent agency that Ari Emanuel leads. Ari Emanuel is quiet about this.
Look, I've prosecuted domestic violence murders and many domestic violence cases. It is a scourge across this country, and it's absolutely something we need to decry. However, as a lawyer in this case, being completely honest, I think this is not a cut and dry case, because if you watch the video, he's actually struck first. That doesn't mean he should ever put his hands on his wife. But if this were taken to a prosecutor, they might consider this a mutual combat situation. That doesn't mean that Dana White could not be an abuser. It doesn't mean that what happened is in any way okay. But with the Chris Beard situation, you don't necessarily have evidence of there being any kind of potential self-defense. Here, the video is clear that Dana White was struck first. I'm not defending him, but that does add a different contour, and I think the conversation has to be different. Now, if this were a black man in his stance here, or in his position, there's no question that he would be castigated more than Dana White is, and I completely agree with that principle. I think, however, this instance is a little different, because there is on video evidence that he was struck first, and I think that makes this a different analysis, frankly.
We're not actually having a legal conversation, because I'm going to use the University of Texas example as a part of this. Beard's fiance said, I shouldn't have called. He didn't choke me. It wasn't a fight, even though he was charged. Their deal was, doesn't matter. We still are firing him because of the conduct. So what I'm speaking about is not, was Dana White, was he legally, was it legal for him or proper for him to lack of a better phrase, stand his ground and slap his wife after she slapped him. The bottom line is he slapped his wife, and a lot of folks are real quiet about this.
Yeah, I agree with that principle. Yeah, no question there.
So
I agree. I agree with you.
No, I said Michael.
Yeah, you know, if this were an African-American athlete or president of, if everything else was the same, but these were just two African-Americans, it'd be totally different. The media coverage would be different. I haven't seen anything on MSNBC really about this. I saw a clip on Instagram. That's where I first saw about this, a clip on Instagram about it. CBS Sports has an article that came out yesterday that talks about it, and it talks about the delay of the debut of Dana White's new Power Slap Fighting League that was going to debut January 11th.
No pun intended. Power Slap Fighting League.
Power Slap Fighting League. It was going to debut January 11th on TBS. It's been pushed back to January 18th because of the backlash. But I haven't seen the type of the backlash in the media and even on social media that you would see if these were two African Americans. If we look at it now, it's not exactly the same thing. I understand. But if you just look at Chris Brown and Rihanna, that was everywhere. Yes, they were two celebrities. I totally understand that. But that was everywhere, and it cost Chris Brown a lot in his career. It set him back a lot. With this here,
and rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so. I understand. But with it now, you also have to understand this is after you had a guy who said on tape that he grabbed women by the vagina, and he became president also. So, hey, we'll see what happens.
And you know that was a discussion about this on ESPN's First Take today, Kelly, and people were talking about it. And here's the piece: I don't care if you're under the influence. The thing that I'm talking about is Dana White is over an entire league. He is supposed to set the standard of conduct. And so what now happens if one of his UFC fighters commits domestic violence? So what does he say? Oh, you can't fight. We got to put you down. But yeah, man, you just smack your wife and it's all good. You still posting Instagram videos.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm actually surprised that a morality clause hasn't been mentioned. Not necessarily in this conversation specifically, but like in any conversation regarding this case. How is he not violating his contract as head of UFC if there's a morality clause in place? Because my understanding, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, basically it just says don't do dumb crap. And if, the board finds that you did dumb crap, then you're gone. I don't see how that is not in discussion at this point. And maybe it is, and we just don't know about it, and it's behind the scenes, and he's just trying to keep his job. But to your point about the potential hypocrisy of it all, should, let's just say, a fighter of his does something very similar and then is, fired, and, deals are being rescinded, it would be incredibly difficult for that to happen if he himself doesn't have any repercussions for what he did.
Bottom line is this here, Endeavor, which owns the UFCF, should be a hell of a lot more aggressive in dealing with Dana White. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back, we'll talk with trainer Monica Jones, part of our New You for 2023. Look, a lot of people are doing fitness, they're doing cardio, they're walking, they're doing the treadmill, but she said resistance training should be a part of that. And so we'll talk about that next in our Fit, Live, Win segment. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, y'all. We should be easily at more than 1,000 likes. Same thing if you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, if you're watching the Black Star Network, hit the like button, hit the share button. And speaking of the Black Star Network, download our app. We're trying to get to 75,000 downloads. You can do so Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV. TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. We'll be right back.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
I love directing. It's a different kind of piece. I do believe that the 30 years I was acting was to prepare me for what I'm supposed to be doing and that what I'm really am good at.
But when you were acting, were you even thinking about directing?
Nope.
Were you, so what the hell happened?
If you had asked me 15 years ago, I probably would have said, no, I don't know. I was doing Ava DuVernay's first film, I Will Follow. Mm-hmm. And during that process, I think because it was her first film, maybe
She's self-taught.
Absolutely. I probably gave too many suggestions. And at some point, Ava said to me, I think you're a director and you don't know it.
Kim Whitley.
Yo, what's up? This your boy Ice Cube.
Hey, yo, Peace World. What's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
All right, folks, so knew you in 2023 when I was, and I told you all week, when I was in Jamaica. So I'm walking along the beach, and then God gives me and just hits me to have 8 different people talking about really this new you, and different people, dietitians and fitness folks in different ways. And we've got some guests coming up. Rodney Lennon is going to be on talking about the importance of weight, heavy weights when it comes to lifting weights. We got Funk Roberts, who's going to be on his program focusing on fitness for men over 50. We've got Miss Olympia Cheryl Grant's going to be on talking about the importance of fitness for women over 50. Dr. Rowe is going to be here with a dietitian. Cootie Mack is going to be with us talking about getting our food stuff straight as well. And of course, this week we've had Jim Jones, we've had Terry Starks, we've had J.J. Smith, and joining us today is my homegirl, Monica Jones. Of course, she goes by Train with Mon on Instagram. And so I had you down. So, and I saw you at the Congressional Black Caucus, and I said it was crazy at the Apple party. And what was crazy, y'all, I was like, yo, I said, I've not had her on since I had my TV One show. And so your name was one of the ones that popped up. And so a lot of people are working out. And folks see me post my videos on Instagram, and I love all these pseudo trainers, folk who everybody got something to say. And one of the things that folks always want to comment on, man, I keep seeing you on the treadmill. They're not realizing I do a 30-minute treadmill workout. And I got a bike, elliptical. I got a bike and a treadmill. I prefer the elliptical a lot better. What they don't realize is when I get done with that, then I do resistance training with my bands.
Yeah.
And I do have weights, I do have dumbbells, I do have other things as well, but I really prefer the bands, but I can do different things with it. So talk about why the resistance training, why does that matter?
So there's a number of reasons why, but I think one of the most important things is the fact that people feel like they have to do cardio because It gives them the endorphins that they need, and it's also something they can kind of mindlessly do.
And when you're sweating, you think, "Oh, I'm sweating, so I'm working out."
Right? I feel my muscles, I'm tired. But then it feels like you can do other things while you do cardio. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but resistance-based training, it could be bands, it could be body weight, it could be using dumbbells. It's really important because it allows for us to build up our bone mineral density. So when we reach our mid-20s, that starts to decrease already. And then just take into account smoking, partying, drinking, doing all those things. It also slows down our ability to create new bone while we are getting rid of the old bone.
Okay.
So whether you're looking at osteopenia, which is really big with women getting into their 30s, 40s, 50s, or your osteoporosis, where just your bones are more brittle, resistance-based training is why we need to keep that calcium up, make sure that our bones are strong.
So I'm gonna go back to let's start with one. So when you said resistance training with body weight, what does that mean? What does that look like?
It could be anything. You can do body weight squats, you can do push-ups, you can do superheroes. Just make sure that you're doing something that causes some muscular tension. So when we do cardio, a lot of times our body is just moving, but it's not moving against a certain force. It's just moving in a certain direction. But when we do training for our muscles...
So even if we're doing cardio, that's why when on the machine where you can increase your level of resistance.
Yes, that's why it's important.
So even if you're doing it, jack that up, that way it's not just you, even playing, and you just basically just walking fast, you're actually pushing against something.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why if you're going to do some cardio-based training, elliptical is great, or doing, if you're going to walk, you want to walk on an incline or walk with some weight on you, because of the fact that it's going to allow for you to get that resistance in your muscles and allow for your metabolism to boost. When we carry around more muscle in our body, doesn't necessarily mean we're bigger. It doesn't mean that we're heavier necessarily, depending. But it allows for our metabolism to be a little bit more boosted, and so we can live more flexible lifestyles. I think a lot of people are all or nothing when it comes to New Year's, and there's still a lot of events going on. I'm catching you at the events, so it's really important to make sure that we live a flexible lifestyle. We don't go all or nothing.
All right, folks, roll the video, because when we talk about body weight, again, somebody who's still thinking. So is that what we're talking about here? Is that it?
So that is cardio purely, but in the same workout, I'm getting down, I'm doing some crab bridges, I'm doing some push-ups. So mixing in some cardio like that with your body weight with actual workouts that have time under tension. So a little bit of a slower count, allowing for yourself to take your time and feel that pressure for your muscles. That's what matters. You got to cross-train. You got to have both.
Okay, and so, all right, so let's deal with sets and then time. So if we're working out, first of all, how much time are we talking about? I've had some people say after you do like a set, you do 30-second break. Some say 10 seconds. What should we be doing?
So start where meet yourself where you are. I think that everybody has to start somewhere. So when you talk about timed intervals, I think it's a great place for someone who is new to resistance training or working out in general. I think it's great because it gives you a time frame to stick to, and you can see yourself kind of getting a little bit better within that time frame. So it truly doesn't matter. I wouldn't put yourself in efforts that are longer than 90 seconds long as a beginner, because that's when you really start to falter in your form, depending on your fitness level, and then you're kind of setting yourself back if you get injured.
So when you mention weights, I've seen some of your videos, and some people, again, they're all about heavy weights. Well, others are like, no, it's about being very slow with repetitions. And so let's say somebody, so what should it be? 5 pounds, 10 pounds, not trying to be so heavy, but doing more reps?
You want manageable at first, manageable but challenging, and it really depends on who you are. So that's why you need a trainer. Make sure that you get someone to guide you, because a lot of times we'll scroll down our timeline, see different things. Someone's doing cardio, someone is, Olympic lifting heavy weights, and it can become confusing. Stick to that one thing and try to see how it progresses for you, and then see how you can challenge yourself as you go on.
Okay, so let's talk about resistance bands, and they're all different types. They're light, medium, heavy. You can place them on your ankles. You can place them on your thighs, and you can use them in so many different ways.
Yes, and you can take them anywhere.
Right.
So resistance bands are incredible. I use strength bands, so they're a full loop. Yep. That's a strength band. So basically, you're able to do all kinds of workouts, whether you're anchoring them to something or you are just holding on to them yourself and creating the resistance. You also have resistance bands that have handles for those who have like delicate hands, but you want to make sure that you're using these with control still. Although it's giving you the resistance, moving too fast.
So when you say with control, not trying to go fast completely, but really take your time going up and coming down to feel the resistance.
Build up to it. I think that our confidence builds when we do resistance-based training because it is something that is a little bit more challenging for us. Back when these videos went live, that was, like 5 years ago, I was building my confidence with bands, and then I eventually got to barbell workouts, and I'm a boxer. I love doing bands so that it helps me with the rotation of my joints so that I am throwing punches correctly and bringing them back.
See, the reason I love the bands again is because so somebody who's watching right now, again, look, I've got the boxing, I got the weights, I got the elliptical. I posted a video the other day. I got all the stuff in my home gym. But you may not have a home gym. This allows for you can attach it to a door, and you can do it in any room. And then if you're traveling, you can do it at your family's house, if you're in hotel rooms, and it allows you to be far more mobile.
Yes, it allows for you to go anywhere. And that's one of the main excuses that there is, like, I don't have time. Like, you better bring those bands to work.
Yeah, I mean, you could, like, I almost did that. I was like, damn, I didn't get it in. Because I actually keep it set at home. I travel so much, I literally have one that's just for travel because otherwise, you forgot or whatever the heck. And again, you can move them around. Let's go questions from our panel. Matt, first.
I guess the only question I have is there a difference between body weights and resistance bands or anything else as it relates to efficacy in building muscle?
So yes, eventually you want to cross-train with all. It's really good to make sure that when you use bands and things like that, they're allowing for you to get a little bit more stabilization through your joints. And resistance-based training, whether it's with bands or weights, it really helps when you build that time under tension and your muscles starting to feel it. You're building a mind-muscle connection. If we're not challenging ourselves to do that, it makes us a little bit more sluggish and not as sharp in our older age. So aside from our bones getting less dense, it also causes us to not be as sharp mentally. So we're falling more, we're breaking more when we fall. And our joints are just as important as our muscles, but our muscles are what support them. So if we're not actually building our muscle and our joints are taking all of that that wear and tear day to day, opening doors, holding babies, whatever it is, driving cars, then we're gonna be injured no matter what.
Kelly?
Sure. So when it comes to strength training and the like, how do you feel about like the supplements that a lot of people use in conjunction with? And I guess a follow-up question for that is, as we get older, pain management is something that I think about a lot because, I've been injured. I've broken my ankle so many times doing sports and dislocated this, that, and third. So even though I'm young, my joints feel older than I am. So how do you reconcile that with the strength training that you have to do in order to keep those muscles and joints healthy?
With supplementation, you want to make sure that you know what it is that you actually need. So a lot of people use caffeine or pre-workouts so that they can just get there, right? But maybe you just need to make it easier to get there. So I always tell people don't rely on supplements. Make sure that you're getting everything you need within your diet first, within your intake, and then try to add things if you need them after you've established a good routine.
So actually eat it versus taking a pill.
Yeah, and hydrate yourself. Like know what the signs are to that fatigue or that headache or that muscular ache. Maybe it's not just the fact that you're old. It's the fact that you're just lacking something. You're deficient.
Michael, question, 20 seconds, go.
All right, can you talk about the relationship between cardio and lifting weights and lowering blood pressure? Because I've been using it to working out to lower my blood pressure. Talk about that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of it is going to be a challenge to your heart, no matter what you do. When you move your limbs away from your body, above or around, it's going to cause your heart to work harder, and it's going to cause your lungs to work harder. So when we do that, we're allowing for ourselves to increase the amount of recovery that we need through our entire body. It takes a lot of that pressure away from our actual heart and away from our arteries and allows for us to get better blood flow. It also helps us with our digestion. So if you are having trouble with higher cholesterol or you're having trouble with any sort of other chronic diseases, your gut is going to be the #1 way to fix that. And how do we fix that? By making sure we're moving so that things are moving.
All right, then. Monica, we appreciate it. How can folks find you?
You can find me at Train with Mon on all platforms or monica-jones.com. If you're looking for a trainer, hit us up at hlsfit.com.
All right. Always good to see you.
Good to see you.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Folks, that is it for us. Great week. Please go watch all the recap of the shows. Folks, again, Instagram. YouTube, hit the live button. We should be at 1,000. Y'all tripping, okay? Hurry the hell up and hit the doggone button. I'll see y'all. Got a great weekend this weekend. I'm going to see Soldiers Play tomorrow. My man Norm Lewis, an actor, checking out. And then I'll be moderating the panel with Sidney Poitier's daughters at the screening on Sunday of the screening of the documentary on Apple Plus documentary on Poitier. I'll see you guys on Monday right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We always end every Friday with those who support our show, our donors. We thank all of you who contributed to make this show possible. Until then, have a great weekend. Holla! Next.